Hello, everyone. My name is Isidro. I teach in the East Bend School District. I teach Spanish. And for my assignment, I decided to make a presentation to outline how I envision my makerspace. I divided my presentation into four different categories. The first one, my goal, what I want to be created or experienced in my makerspace. I looked around my district and found the tools already in place or tools that I still need to create my makerspace. I asked myself whether I have the expertise to pull off this makerspace. And finally, I have a small example of something I can see my students doing or using in my makerspace. Um, So for my makerspace, it was difficult to envision how I would do it, given that I am a traveling teacher, so I do not have a room that I call my own. So I thought maybe the best way to go about this until I get to have my own room would be to create a digital makerspace. I want to focus on virtual reality headsets and the utilization of green screen for project making and experience in my class. So, what is my goal? My goal, I had to ask myself, what is the one thing I could help my students make or experience? This was difficult because I am not a crafty person, I am not an artsy person. So, I had to ask myself, what can I help my students achieve in a way that is natural to me as well? And I thought culture. Culture is one of the cornerstones of language learning. That's where you learn about other traditions, other ways of life, uh, cool places in other countries. And I realized that even though I can tell my students about places I visited, um, only a few of them will actually get to experience these places in person. So I thought maybe my makerspace should focus on helping those students that don't have those opportunities. Some of those opportunities could be virtual field trips, whether that is abroad or even things like museum visits. I know last year there was a big show in Philly where they had Frida Kahlo's paintings. And so I thought how great it would have been to have a way to experience this virtually since we could not attend as a field trip. In class, we talk about geography, we talk about different places where Spanish speaking countries are located, how that geography affects um, colloquially how they use the language, different accents. For example, Caribbean Spanish versus South American or European Spanish. Um, it also helps the students look at how geography works even around them. It's very surprising to know how many students don't know that they're neighbors with Mexico. You would be surprised. For language usage, I'm thinking for the green screen. Imagine that instead of just doing worksheets or speaking to your friend about the weather, what if there was a way that my students could create their own weather reports for the class to see, comment on, um, and just put it into context, put into reality for them. The last one, and I will tie it up to the last thing I said, was community building. What if I have a place where they know that they can go and post their products, comment on their classmates' products, and even review just by watching someone talk about that it's raining outside when in the green screen you see a torrential downpour. My second thing I had to ask myself was, well, what are the tools that I have already? And I'm fortunate that in my district we have technology specialists. We have a whole department dedicated to it. We have teachers that are technology specialists themselves, which is one thing I want to achieve. That's why I'm studying instructional technology. Every student in our district, not district, in ninth and 10th grade at least, which is the main two grades that I teach, have a Chromebook available to them that they carry at all times. We also have the necessary computers to run things like virtual reality. Now, the virtual reality sets that we already have, there is a technology teacher that has a room with the Oculus Rift, which is a very immersive, very high-end device, which you can control your environment with. However, it's pretty expensive. It ranges between 500 to this setup that you see on the screen will run you more like $800. They do not have 30 per se, but they have a few. And I know I could have the teacher help my students and help me utilize it in the class. That wouldn't be a big issue. But I was wondering, what if there was a way that all 30 of my students could be in the same place at the same time? And so I'm sure some of you, or hopefully all of you, have seen Google Cardboard. It's been around for a while, and it's a way to cheaply experience virtual reality. It runs between $10 and $20 a piece, and I'm sure I could budget that, and I am 100% sure that my district would give me the money to get Google Cardboard for every student. And given that almost every student has a cell phone that could be put in there, it would be a much more achievable way of having my own virtual reality headsets in my room. The other thing that I would really like to have is the green screen for things like the weather reports that I talked about, or doing skits. Um, the one on the screen is $499, but even if I cannot get one, if I had my own room, I would simply paint a part of the wall to be green for the students to use as a green screen. So that wouldn't be that big of a deal. I've used green screens before, so I feel comfortable helping my students navigate that part of my makerspace. The third thing I had to do was ask myself whether I have the expertise to pull this off. And as I mentioned in my introductory video on Flipgrid, I feel comfortable with the hardware part of it. I build computers. I do a lot of screencasting or streaming when I play video games. And I've used VR headsets extensively. So I feel very comfortable troubleshooting, helping them work problems out that they may find. And I also feel comfortable transmitting cultural information to them that I think they would find relevant and fun, and things that they would like to do in our makerspace. Finally, I thought about an example that I could see my students doing in our um, makerspace, and I thought, what is one thing? And just last week, I was speaking to my Spanish 1 students about La Sagrada Familia in Spain. This, if you don't know, this grand church that has been getting built for 100+ years. And when I show them a video, when we read about it, some of them, hopefully all of them, find it interesting, but you don't really understand the grand magnitude of this place unless you go there. And every time that the school runs a field trip there, I have students that come back and tell me just how amazing it was. And so not every student can go on these field trips. I mean, the average field trip runs between $3,000 to $4,000 to go to a place like Spain or South America. So I figured maybe if I had my own Google Cardboard sets for everybody, we could go visit it together. Here is what I'm talking about. So what if we could be there? Imagine being completely immersed. This does not do it justice, obviously. Where you could look up, you could look down, you could talk to your friends, find places, make scavenger hunts, and just really, really see the magnitude of this place. The last thing I'll show you. Imagine being inside. I tell them just how amazing it is. and how little you feel when you're inside. But imagine if you could actually be here and look up at this place that was built by hand and walk around, get to every crevice. And this is all free. As you can see by the icon, this is ready for virtual reality. So this is something that I think could really help my students understand and appreciate culture better. And I think this virtual place would help us experience and create things to build our community. So that is everything for my presentation. I hope that you guys leave me feedback, and I cannot wait to read or look at your maker spaces. And I hope everyone has a great day. Bye.